We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We'll be joined by our friend Nick Ferguson. Get some NFL conversation with him, talk about the coaching carousel, what's going on with the Broncos. He's based in Denver, former Broncos safety. Sam Yarnell is here. Lots of NFL to get to on the show today. Maybe a little tennis, just a scooge with the Australian Open going on. Slated to have Patrick McEnroe on the show tomorrow from ESPN, part of their coverage down there in Melbourne. And speaking of tennis, I actually want to start the show there, interestingly enough, and there's a special reason for it. It's time for the big story. And the big story on this Tuesday is this. Have we crossed the line when it comes to how we cover sports as the media does? Do we have too much access? You know, we have these NFL all access covering this division and all access covering this preseason team. And now we've got the inside the rope stuff and what goes on the PGA Tour with that Netflix show. And we've seen it with F1 and all these different shows that give you all this access and access. Not easy to say 3 times fast. Is it too much? What makes me ask this question is what transpired with Coco Gauff out at the Australian Open. She lost her quarterfinal match on late, Tuesday night or Monday night, Tuesday morning, whenever you happen to watch it, depending on where you are in the country. Coco Gauff loses. And after the match, she does her thing on the court, walks off the court, and before she goes into her press conference, they show her in this back area of the Australian Open, and they have these fixed cameras that capture players as they walk in and out. And you see her smashing her racket. And people have various reactions to this. Oh, it's unprofessional, sore loser, blah, blah, blah. Some just saying, hey, she's letting off steam. We saw this last year with Aryna Sabalenka at the U.S. Open after she finished second, runner-up. Lost the championship match at the U.S. Open, and Sabalenka, or it might have been the year before, whenever it was, but Sabalenka had one of these moments, and you see the video there of her smashing her racket to pieces. And people had this reaction of, oh, so unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. If you do it on the court, it is unprofessional. Like Daniel Medvedev, and we've seen the video of that 100 times, him just destroying a racket on the court after he lost a match in one of the majors last year. Might have been at the U.S. Open. And you see things like that. And that is unprofessional. And we've seen these sorts of things happen on the court. When it happens behind the scenes in an area that should be sacred for athletes, whether it's the locker room, in different sports, whether it's these moments that are sometimes, you catch a player in a tunnel doing something and expressing frustration. There's got to be safe spaces for athletes. There has to be safe spaces. There have to be sacred places. And it feels to me, now more than ever, there is nothing that's off limits to the media. Virtually nothing is off limits. Where do athletes go after a game? After you've just poured your heart and soul into something, especially in an individual sport like tennis. I mean, in team sports, you've got somebody, a shoulder to cry on, a coach, another player, a trainer, somebody, a PR guy. In a solo sport like tennis, many times, in those moments right after the match, you don't have anybody. You're walking off the court, there's fixed cameras hidden everywhere and trained on you. And look, these athletes know the cameras are there. I get it. But they should have some place they could go where this doesn't have to wind up becoming a viral moment. Coco Gauff, Aryna Sabalenka, whoever, they should have some place to go. We got to see them on the exercise bike right after a match when they're doing their cool off after running around for 3.5 hours in 100-degree temperatures in Melbourne. Why? How much is enough? You get them in a press conference afterwards. You get to hear the on-court interview. You get to watch the match. These people are pouring their hearts out, and you gotta go through that. We see it. Now look. Are there instances where athletes are doing these things on the court, on the field, on the ice, wherever, and acting unprofessional? And we call that out. And we should. We should call that out. But when you're talking about those places that fans don't have access to and shouldn't have access to, why are we filming back there? I know why we're filming back there, because you want that moment if you're ESPN. You want that moment. If you're TNT and it's the French Open, you want that moment. You want to capture that raw, open wound that Coco Gauff is dealing with and trying to heal from. But why? Can't we just let athletes have a little bit of space? Because here's what's starting to happen. You're getting this more adversarial relationship between athletes and the media, athletes and the fans. And part of the reason is athletes have no safe space. They have no place to call their own because we have to see Coco Gauff slam her racket down in some area that only players and trainers and coaches are allowed in, but somehow now we have to allow the media to be there too. And I get it. Coming from me, it probably sounds weird because I want that moment to show on TV. But it's not fair. It's not fair to them. And I know you're going to say, well, they make, Coco Gauff's the highest paid female athlete in the United States between endorsements and how much money she's won. She wins, she makes $35 million a year, her New Balance deal, all that, so she could deal with it. But really? Just because somebody makes a ton of money means they have given up their right to any sort of privacy, to any sort of safe space where they can express their frustrations without having to worry about it going viral and being shown on my dopey show and 100 other shows like it. It's not right. Let me know what you think. You can reach out to me here on X at the back page. Again, hit me up with your thoughts at the back page and let me know your opinion, whether or not you think Coco Gauff should whether those moments should be televised, whether they should be recorded. I don't think they should, but always interested to get your thoughts as well. All right, a lot of NFL to do in the show today. In fact, we're going to go pretty much wall to wall with it. Nick Ferguson will be here, former NFL safety, Denver sports media personality. Sam Yarnell is here too. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of SportsWrap. Always a treat when we can hang out with our friend Nick Ferguson. Former NFL safety. Played with the Broncos. Are you officially an ambassador with the Broncos? Or do you just kind of do stuff?
I would say I just do stuff for the team.
So you're not an official ambassador.
Well, yeah, but what's an official
I don't
ambassador?
know. Maybe you sign a contract or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. I just know when they call me, they ask me to do certain things, I show up. What can Brown do for you? Yes.
I like it. It's like us. We call you. You're like an official ambassador to sports.
There you go. And no contract either way.
No, that's true. That's true. I don't have one either, if it makes you feel any better. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on something before we get into the NFL stuff. What I was talking about in the big story today, the fact that I believe we've now kind of crossed a line where it feels like there's too much access to the athletes we're watching today. And I know people will say, that sounds crazy, Jason. You work in the media, you work in sports broadcasting, you're talking about this stuff. Don't you want all that access? Not at the detriment of the reputation or harming the reputation or the image we have of athletes today. And I used the Coco Gauff incident as an example, but there's a million of these where, whether it's the guy in the tunnel, in a baseball game or a football game. And Nick, I'll ask you on this first, and Sam, I want you to weigh in as well. Is there too much access now? Are we almost seeing too much?
No, you realize the world that we live in. Yes, you asked me a question. I'm telling you, right? And this is not coming from me. This is what the world and society has become. You know what it's turned into? Welcome to the Running Man.
Yes.
If you ever see either of those movies, that's what it's about. Can you show, or how much can you show? Like, reality TV show destroyed everything. right? Because they show every nook and cranny of an individual's life as much as they could show. And we got so absorbed into it. We wanted more access. And the more you provide, the more people are going to demand it.
But isn't it too much? Shouldn't we pull back a little bit?
Okay, see, I personally think that it's too much, especially in the Coco
that was
Gauff
my question.
situation.
Yes.
Yes. I think it's too much, but society doesn't. They want that access, man. That's what people are selling. That's what content creators are selling. Access, right? The major networks are selling access, the behind the scenes, what it looks like, the show before the show. So with more of that being in demand, you're going to see more of it. Is it fair to the athlete? No, because that Coco Gauff situation is going to go viral because it's like, oh, she's having a mental breakdown. And it's just like, well, if a camera followed you every damn where, if you were an individual, we'll see a lot of things about you that we don't like.
Yeah.
But as an athlete, we get mad, we get upset. And that is, a direct, recourse of her losing. So listen, if the camera was in the car when back 20 years ago when we lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they probably would have seen me do much worse.
Sam?
Nick, no, I agree with a lot of what Nick is saying in large part, and I think that we have kind of encountered a little bit of a chicken and the egg kind of scenario. That may not be the perfect paraphrasing for it, but we've gotten to a point where it feels like the access that is given not only via video to people watching all around the country, but also if you think about it for fans in stadiums watching in person, has gotten more expensive on an almost exponential rate over the course of, the last 10 years. We'll even be conservative with it. And the rates that these athletes are getting paid, the contracts that they're being given, the money that all these leagues are making has also increased at an exponential rate. So to me, there's a very, very clear connection between how much money all of these leagues are bringing in, how much money all of these players are being paid, and the access that you're being given to them. To me, it's kind of like the rising tide is lifting all three of those ships, if you will.
Yeah, I just think it's counterproductive to these leagues trying to highlight athletes and show us the best of them. But then, and I'm not saying, we don't need to see the agony of defeat in some way, shape, or form. I just think there needs to be a boundary somewhere, and it feels like the boundary has completely disappeared.
There are no boundaries, man. We are living.
That's a problem.
We're living in the Truman Show. That's where we are right now, right? Because it's all about access. If you talk to anyone probably working for a major network, that's what they want. It's about the access, and they want the back and forth because the back and forth is what sells. That's how you bring in sponsors. That's how ratings go up, and that's what it's all about. All of this is part of the system, and the system doesn't always act in its right way, the way that it should, and it's all about money. So that Coco Gauff situation, every outlet picked that up because it shows her in a very vulnerable moment. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, and I don't mind seeing some of that when it's on the court, on the field, and I will criticize to my dying day if she did that on the court the way we've seen, Daniel Medvedev do it last year. I think it was at the U.S. Open where he just destroyed a racket into obliterated a racket. I'd criticize that. I'm not going to criticize her or Arina Sabalenka doing what she did last year after she finished second in one of the Grand Slams. I'm not going to criticize them for something that we shouldn't even be seeing anyway. I'm not going to criticize them for that.
But whether it happens, JP, on the court or as they're walking off the court to the locker room, all of that in the eyes of other people, it's still the same thing.
But it's not. It's not.
I know it's not. But for me, I'm not the larger population. What I personally think, because I'm an athlete, not everyone is thinking that way because guess what? There are less people who have been in a situation that myself and Coco Gauff are in opposed to everyone else on the outside. Because even though a lot of people aspire to get to that point, they look up to athletes, right? But the biggest thing that I know as an athlete, they want to see you fall. That's the biggest thing.
Well, let's just say, by the way, I have broken a couple of toes. kicking a bowling bag on more than one occasion at bowling tournaments. I just want to say.
First and foremost,
yes.
I'm not kicking a damn ball. I might throw it, but I'm not kicking it.
I kicked a bag with 3 balls in it and broke a toe, big toe.
That's a whole different level of frustration right there.
Yep. It's happened.
Your brain didn't even factor in, well, you know what? I can throw this thing because it has 3 holes in it. You know what? Let me kick it.
Nope. When you're that angry, miss a 10-pin that you should make. No, that just doesn't work. All right. We're keeping Nick. We're hanging out with him for a couple of segments today. I want to talk to him about the AFC championship game, where the Broncos go from here. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. Good to have Nick Ferguson hanging out with us on the program. So I sent Nick a text last night. I said, Nick, you want to do some Broncos therapy today? And what was your response, Mr. Ferguson?
I think it's better if it comes from you because I texted.
Nick's response, good thing I'm prepared. He said, don't need Broncos there. I'm reading this verbatim, by the way, so if there's like typos or any other sort of lingo. Don't need Broncos therapy like many fanboys here in Denver because I played the facts. Some were mad and called me wet blanket like Ben Albright. That's because the truth is a hard pill to swallow. Then he said, what time? Because I'm working out tomorrow. So Nick, expand upon that. You know, I mean, I would imagine a lot of Broncos fans do need the therapy after losing in such a way and not losing with your best guy under center.
Well, here's what I told the fans all season long, and I'm doing this based on my experience as a player and the former coach. And I never tried to throw any of my experience in anyone's face. I've never been that guy, well, I played and you didn't. No, I'm just going to give you the facts based on what my eyes see because I love this franchise, and I can't be one of those individuals in media now lying to them about what they see to make them feel better. But that's what they wanted me to do, right? Even in some individuals who I work with. But I'm like, man, I can't do that. I've been talking about some of these issues for almost 2 years, right? And the issue was, well, the Broncos can't run the ball because it's Javonte Williams' fault. I said, wait a minute. Did you watch Javonte go to Dallas and he rushed for more than 1,200 yards? That was a guy that you said had no vision. He couldn't stay on track, right? And guess what? He had no balance and he had no speed because of his knee. He just proved that wrong. He debunked that. Then it was, well, RJ Harvey, you know, he can't run the ball. He has no patience. He's a young guy. And I'm like, no, that's not the issue. What we're seeing is the offensive line is not getting pushed. Now, no one wanted to have that conversation because, you know, sites like Pro Football Focus had the Broncos offensive line ranked number 1 because they had not given up a lot of sacks. And then I said, okay, wait a minute. Let's take a look at that. This is not me just kind of wanted to rip the offensive line apart. It was me just telling facts. Number 10, Bo Nix saved a lot of sacks. You know why? Because he was mobile. He did some things that Jarrett Stidham could not do. And had he played in the game, would the Broncos have won? A possibility. But I would have picked him if he was playing because it would have gave them more opportunity. But you were asking me to choose a quarterback that was 1-3 in his starts. Now he's 1-4. He hadn't played through a ball in a live game since 2023. I'm supposed to believe that. And I know Stiddy has been in this Sean Payton's offense for 3 years, but here's what I know as a former player. You take anyone, but more importantly, a quarterback, and you throw them into an AFC championship game and say, well, I want you to lead us to the promised land. That was a possibility because you have what I call the MacGyver defense led by Vance Joseph, who has saved the offense all season long. And oh, by the way, gentlemen, the Broncos could not run the ball. The past 3 or 4 games of the season, Bo Nix led the team in rushing. And now you're saying, well, you're playing against the Patriots. They're not good as far as getting sacks. They're good at getting pressure. So that's why I made that statement, and I'll never be a fanboy. I'm just going to tell the facts the way they are.
Sam, I could sense you want to jump in.
Yeah, well, Nick, I think there are a couple of things, right? I think you and I and any other objective ball knower out there can look at that game and say, there are 3 different things that could have happened, and the Denver Broncos should have won that game. You mentioned the Bo Nix thing, sure. People aren't talking enough about how the literally 2.5 minutes after the Patriots kick a field goal to go ahead in that game and take the lead, after their kicker had been shaky the entire game, by the way, the sky opened up and a blizzard just started. No one could play football from there on out. The Broncos were capitally unlucky. I'll say this about the Stidham thing. Jarrett Stidham is a guy who again continues to be perennially undersold all around the media with regard to how much talent he has. People forget this is a guy who the Patriots used a day 2 pick on to try and be the successor to Tom Brady after Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And with the Sean Payton thing bringing him to Denver, he was a guy who went out and actively sought after Jarrett Stidham being his backup quarterback. This is a very talented team in Denver. Speaking on the defense, right? This is a defense that has been a top 3 at worst, right? I would argue top 2 unit all year long, right behind the Seahawks and the Houston Texans. They are a defense. They are a team that was built on defense with an offensive head coach who was figuring things out. But I don't think that any Denver fan should walk away from that game thinking, yeah, we deserved to lose.
Well, no, the idea is here in Broncos country, fans are saying, well, we lost the game. The Patriots didn't win the game. And I would concur with that fact, because there were opportunities to win the game. And one of the topics of conversation right now, and even immediately right after the game, was why didn't Coach Payton kick the field goal? Right? And someone's like, well, it's the analytics. You can go up by 14. I'm like, yeah, you can go up by 14, but you can go up by 10 and put more pressure on an offense that was struggling to move the ball against your defense. And that's what it's about. Take the points. Just think about in the Rams games against Seattle Seahawks. It was a 4th and 4 on the 16-yard line. Sean McVay decided to what? He decided to throw to his tight end, and then Witherspoon knocked it away, and that was 3 points. The score was 27-31 at that time with 5 minutes remaining. Listen, man, I'm not a riverboat gambler. You know, I don't even know how to play, blackjack, and I don't roll dice. I don't do any of that stuff. But the idea is that you take the points. I mean, that's kind of my frame of mind. Call it lame, but I'm going to take those points every single time.
Yeah.
I get it. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush,
oh,
right?
Jesus.
A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush.
Really?
Hey, listen.
I'm sorry. I
Well, I mean, like, what, JP, what would you have done in that situation?
Oh, he should have kicked the field goal. I mean, without question.
Yeah. Absolutely. And some people say, well, you know what? Maybe he didn't know that the weather was going to happen.
Oh, stop. These guys know everything.
Listen, I didn't say that. That's some of the justifications from the fans. Like, well, maybe he didn't know. Right? In hindsight being 2020. I don't care. Just kick the field goal.
The only people that didn't know were Romo and Nance in the booth, because literally at the beginning of the game, I got Nance saying, oh, there might be some flurries in the second half. It was a snow globe in the 4th quarter. Like, give me a break. Like that.
You were in Denver, Colorado.
In the middle of a huge winter storm, by the way, which is ravaging the entire country. Nick Ferguson is hanging out with us, does a great job. Denver sports media guy, also a former Broncos safety, hanging out with us on the program. There's more to get to from the world of the NFL. We will do it with Nick, Sam Yarnell, and myself. Don't go anywhere. Lots more Sports Wrap on this Tuesday. All right, we take it to segment 4 on the program, halfway home on this Tuesday, with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, Denver sports media personality, one of our NFL analysts that we really love to break down the league with on the show. All right. I saw this question asked on one of the morning sports shows today. I won't say which one. But the question was asked, are the Broncos a lock next year for the AFC West? My answer to that is no. The Chiefs are going to come back and do some things. Although I talked to somebody who follows the team yesterday on the show, and he said there's major changes he thinks coming in Kansas City in this offseason. the Chargers are going to get back Joe Alt and two huge pieces on that offensive line, which is a huge part of what you're looking at with them. They bring in Mike McDaniel. Will come in and be the offensive coordinator. Who knows what that changes there. And the Raiders are a dumpster fire. So when you look at the AFC West, Nick, do you believe that as currently constructed, and if not, what needs to be added to this Broncos team for them to remain a lock in the AFC West next year?
Well, JP, they're not going to be a lock. Are they the favorites? Absolutely. The reason I wouldn't go as far as to calling them a lock is that you're giving them a lot of certainty. Because just like you said, I mean, you talk about what's going on in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Mike McDaniel's going to come in. He's going to change a lot of what was going on with Justin Herbert. And I know him personally, and I know the way he thinks and that whole pinky in the brain type of mentality he has. So it didn't really work out in Miami as far as him being a head coach, but I know what he can do as far as a coordinator is concerned. Now, you mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a bevy of issues. Now, they resolve one of those issues by bringing back one of their coaches who they should have helped propel to be a head coach, but that's a whole different subject. And Eric Bieniemy, he's going to instill a level of toughness that they had once before when they made so many trips to the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Now, they're going to have problems because I don't believe Patrick Mahomes is going to be ready at the beginning of the season. It's probably going to be week 6 or maybe week 8 before he comes back. So the Broncos definitely, they are the front runners, but not a definite lock because, like you said, going back to the Chargers, their offensive line, if those guys come back healthy, then that changes the perspective for the Chargers. But I still think that the Broncos are the front runners, not a lock.
Sam?
Nick, do you think it'll be the best division in football, the AFC West, between the Broncos? I mean, obviously, you saw what they are this entire year, a verified contender. We've been talking about the Chargers. That O-line is going to be 100% better next year. You talk about a team like the Chiefs. I know that, Mahomes might not. They're bringing back Eric Bieniemy, and let's be honest, that offense has not looked good since Eric Bieniemy left, and they still made a Super Bowl. And then you look at the Raiders. This is a team that is kind of following the modern trend of how to build an NFL roster. They have their star players at every position besides quarterback, and now they're going to go out and get Fernando Mendoza. So I'll ask you, is this the best division in football next year?
Yeah, I would say yes, they are. Even though you have some of those teams that you mentioned with them being the Raiders, they're just trying to find a way to jumpstart, their team. And Fernando Mendoza, if he comes in and he performs well, then that's going to change a lot. Because if you look at the East, you have Buffalo. They're looking for a new head coach. The Miami Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley. He's a new head coach. And the Jets have, essentially struggled. And then you look at the North. I mean, right there, Cleveland, they're looking for a new head coach. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got Mike McCarthy coming in. Guess what? I mean, they underachieved for the past couple of years. Who in the hell is going to be their quarterback, right? With Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, they're always there offensively. Defensively, not so much. So when you break everything down, the AFC West is still going to be the topic of conversation because with the exception of the Raiders, everyone has a head coach. Everyone has somewhat of a quarterback. My only question mark with the Kansas City Chiefs is, okay, well, with Mahomes expecting him being out for a significant amount of time, will Gardner Minshew be back from his injury to take over? And if it does, with Eric Bieniemy back in the building, it's going to make things a lot interesting.
The NFC West is on line one. They want to have a word with you. They had 38 wins. Their first, second, and third place teams in the NFC West had a combined 38 wins. Stop with the AFC West. We were talking about
the AFC.
No, he didn't say the AFC. He said football. He said the best division in football.
I did say all of football, but I wasn't here to nitpick. Nick, I got to get your thoughts on this, though, because we were talking about the AFC, and you mentioned the Cleveland Browns and who their quarterback's going to be next year, and it might just be Pro Bowler Shedeur Sanders. The Pro Bowl meant a lot more when you were playing. What does it mean to you as a former NFL player to see kind of this honor be stripped and now given to guys who played half the season with a franchise?
Well, you know what? I say kudos for him and congratulations. I know JP doesn't like that because his
listen, I'm rooting for Shedeur Sanders, the Cleveland Brown. I was not a fan of Shedeur Sanders, the Colorado Buffalo. I am a fan of him in Cleveland. He does not belong on the Pro Bowl.
Well, listen, if you have a problem with that, then complain to the NFL because this is par for the course, right? This is the process. When some of the starters are, they either banged up or they say that they're banged up because they don't want to play, or they're in the Super Bowl, you have to go to the next guy, the next guy, and the next guy, right? But there are a lot of, fans of Dylan Gabriel saying, well, he could have been that guy. Yeah, if I could have, would have, should have, right? I mean, hell, he may end up in Atlanta with Reese and Kevin Stefanski. We still don't know that yet, but I'm happy for Shador. I'm just pissed that, there weren't some guys that were injured when I played because I had a hell of a season in 05, 06, and I didn't even get an alternate. How about that?
No Pro Bowl appearances for our friend.
You
Nick
wanted the
Ferguson.
free trip to Hawaii.
Yeah, back then it was a free trip to Hawaii. That's true.
It was then. So, but
all
yeah.
Right. I'm going to hold you for one more because I want to get into the coaching stuff. Nick Ferguson hanging out with us. I say, why not just make it a whole show with Nick Ferguson today? Former NFL safety hanging out with us. We had some bonus conversation as well, which we'll be posting on the YouTube channel. Why are you laughing?
Just a little bit of bonus conversation. Just a tiny bit.
I'm just going to post all the segments together as one, as its own thing on YouTube. Maybe with an editor too. I don't know. So there was a lot going on in the coaching front, and we're finally getting to it here. I talked about it with Matt Verderam on the show yesterday a little bit, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. With Mike McCarthy landing in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, and to me, it's sort of a purgatory move as far as I'm concerned. It almost feels like this is, sort of them going through the stages of grief, and they're in denial right now that they really don't need to rebuild. And we can piece it together. And Mike McCarthy with, maybe Aaron Rodgers coming back for one more year, and I don't, and this aging defense that we're seeing. Nick, what was your level of surprise that they went with McCarthy?
Yeah, I was surprised because I thought Brian Flores would be an excellent candidate for that job based on the fact that when Flores was having his issues with the league and the Miami Dolphins, the only team that came calling and gave him an opportunity were the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're familiar with him with the organization, but it didn't happen. And then I can understand why they decided on Mike McCarthy, because they didn't want to go and play the game of the coaching carousel. They wanted to make a decision, make a hire, so they can start evaluating their roster and move on. I mean, there's no guarantee that Mike McCarthy is going to be successful. There's no guarantee he's going to fail, but I understand the idea of going out and getting a veteran coach who has been out of the game for a year and a half, and may have a new, fresh perspective coming into one of the more storied organizations in the league.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy hire for me, and Sam, I'll get your thoughts on this as well. This hire to me in this situation, I think he's still a really good coach. I think he can win a Super Bowl if he was with the right team. This isn't the right team. This almost feels like, Outback. It's like going to Outback. Yeah, you're going to a steakhouse, but it's Outback. It's not Smith and Walensky. It's not Fleming's. You're going to Outback. You're getting a steak, but you're getting an Outback steak. No offense.
Certainly no Peter Luger's.
It's not a Peter Luger's in Brooklyn.
Steelers.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you, Jason. But Nick, I have this question for you because, and I want to get your perspective on it as a former NFL player. There's been this wide, acceptance that, and we've mentioned it, right? They hired Mike McCarthy. They're bringing Aaron Rodgers back, right? He's going to run it back. He'll be the Pittsburgh quarterback for another year. How much does that really matter? Have you ever had a coach that had a year out of football, whatever the case may be, and then signed to a team and that made you more inclined to want to go play there? How much of an effect does the coach really have on whether or not a player will come back and play for that team?
Well, first of all, Sam, I've never been in that situation before, but once again, I understand where the Pittsburgh Steelers are right now. They're trying to figure out right now. They're trying to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, right? And hoping that it would stick, right? But to me, I get it. I mean, Mike McCarthy, his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, they could kind of rekindle that because they need to kind of start laying the groundwork for what is to come. There's going to be that point when the Steelers country, nation, whatever they call themselves, that they're going to have to start from scratch. This is them starting from scratch. And if McCarthy kind of help you glue the fact of bringing Aaron Rodgers back, why not? Right. And then you can move on from that. But it's a sticky situation. But I get it. You can go out and get a first time coach, someone who's never been a play caller, and then you can fall back. But they're like, no, we're going to go out there and get someone that has skins on the wall that we can know that we can sell to our fan base, because that's what it's about at this particular point. What can we sell to our fan base who just kind of push Mike Tomlin out by yelling, fire Tomlin? So they want to bring someone in there that kind of settles them down for just the moment.
I got 2 minutes to run through these. The Bills, where do they go? Phillip Rivers is obviously not the hire. Is it Brian Daboll that winds up the hire? Where do we go here?
Well, if I am the Buffalo Bills, man, why not Brian Daboll? I mean, him performing with Josh Allen is what got him the Giants job. Bring him back. And I'm sure he's learned a lot from experiencing the Giants, which is an entirely different media world than being in Buffalo. So if there is a guy that you bring back, I would say Brian Daboll, but I don't think Joe Brady's going to be happy about that, and he's going to want to stay as the OC.
Coaching New York's only NFL team. The Browns, let's talk about Cleveland. You know, what makes sense there for them right now?
I don't know who makes sense for them, because once again, you don't have a quarterback. So whomever takes that job.
What do you mean they don't have a quarterback? We just talked about Shedeur Sanders, the Pro Bowler.
Bowler.
Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
But once again, as a person going in to take that job, I mean, how does that person feel about Shedeur? I think Shedeur can play in his league. He just needs some more pieces around him. But depending on who you are, you may not be comfortable with that. So we've seen coaches in Cleveland get fired a lot. So if you go in there, I want a 5-6 year deal no matter what happens.
The Cardinals?
The Cardinals, you know what? I think that Vance Joseph would be great for that job, because he's been there before in that organization. And I think he could take that organization to a whole different level. But he's going to have a problem, because who's your quarterback, right? Kyler Murray is not your quarterback. Let's be totally honest. If you go there with Kyler Murray, you're going to get fired, because every coach that attached their wagon to Kyler Murray has been fired.
You only have 15 seconds, but the Raiders.
I don't know who's going to take that job. For me, I actually like that job with the Raiders, because you have the number 1 pick. You have Ashton Genty. I mean, you have Brock Bowers, who is a monster at the tight end position. That, at this point right now, is a better job than any of the other jobs that are out there, in my opinion.
Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, kind enough to hang out with us on the show today. Always appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate you.
All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. Before we go, a couple of quick reminders. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show Monday through Friday, 45 minutes waiting there for you early each afternoon. We also have the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel available on YouTube. Go and subscribe today. The 45-minute version of the TV show, commercial free. It's 45 minutes right there, early every afternoon. And pro tip, it's there before it even airs on TV anywhere. Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts are there as well. 1 to 3 minute long clips, top stories, big games. We got them covered with Sports Wrap Shorts. Also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. All right, we got breaking news. It's time for some odds and ends. And look, Nick Ferguson is still here because we have breaking news. We talked about the coaching stuff going on in Buffalo, and Nick, Joe Brady promoted to head coach of the Buffalo Bills. What do you make of it?
I like the move. I think interviewing all these other candidates just allow the Pegula family to realize that, you know what, they had the guy in the building, but they just wanted to test the waters. It's just like when you're dating. You just want to go out, you want to see what it's like, and then you always go back to the person that you know is the right person for you. And I think Joe Brady is going to be a great guy for Josh Allen, because when he first arrived, Josh Allen was just a molded clay, and then he molded him into a historic MVP pottery. And when you think about completions to attempt ratio, he improved all that, but he also brought in a balanced attack. So I like this hire. The only question that I have is that we know personnel issues were an issue for Sean McDermott. And even though Joe Brady signed a 5-year deal, how much power is he going to have over Brandon Beane and being able to pick his own players? That is concern.
Sam Yarnell, Bills fan number one. You always love to remind Nick that he played for the Buffalo Bills. So Sam Yarnell, your opinion on the hire?
That's right. We do have a former Buffalo Bill in our very presence, Jason Page. But I'll say this, Nick, I can't disagree with anything you said, right? I'm not going to come out and say it's a bad hire. I said to you earlier in this very show, Joe Brady's a guy who's had success at multiple levels, right? He was in that offensive room for one of the best, if not the best, college football teams of all time. He was Josh Allen's offensive coordinator when he won an MVP. Like, Joe Brady has been there and done that. What I'll say about all this is it does feel a little bit lazy from the Buffalo Bills' perspective. Maybe lazy's not the right word. Maybe tired. It seemed like what Terry Pegula was saying to everybody in his press conference that was a colossal meltdown for the entire city of Buffalo. I'm sorry, from the South Towns all the way to Niagara Falls. Everybody should have been disappointed in what the owner said during that press conference. What he came out and said was that it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Okay, so you're gonna promote from within to try and replace him? All this does is it makes it more and more feel like there was a freaking coup that was raised by Joe Brady and Brandon Beane to oust Sean McDermott from this role. You didn't go out and interview Kubiak, right, the day after he got eliminated from the playoffs. You didn't have second interviews with these big-name guys that are hot in the streets like Udinsky, like Shellhouse. It just seems like a little bit of a tired move from the Buffalo Bills side, Jason.
Nick?
All I want to say is, oh, no, he did not. But Sam kind of went all in on the Buffalo Bills.
Is this Wendy Williams?
Yeah. Well, I didn't expect Sam to do that, right? As a resident Buffalo Bill fan, I didn't expect him to do it. But I understand his point. And I understand that Pegula's saying, now listen, we want to stay in-house with someone who's familiar with Josh Allen, because we don't want to bring in someone else and Josh Allen has to go back to step one and start the whole season over as far as learning a new offense. Let's stay within. Now, there's always going to be questions, and if we're not going to be able to prove them with the 10-4 hat theories, was there a conspiracy inside the organization to push Sean McDermott out? I don't know. We will never know, but all I know is it's great to have someone in the building who's familiar with your quarterback, but also the other players on your roster. They're familiar with Joe Brady too. So let's give Joe Brady an opportunity.
All right, we've done almost an entire NFL show today. In the final 45 seconds, real quick, Carlos Alcaraz moves on at the Australian Open, beats De Minaur in straight sets. Coco Gauff is out. We recapped that in the top of the show with the big story and talking about her sort of meltdown afterwards that a lot of people talked about. You got Musetti and Djokovic going at it to get another spot in the semifinals. You still got Ben Shelton and Jannik Sinner to come out at the Australian Open. Patrick McEnroe will be on the show, I believe, tomorrow. The time difference has me all screwed up, so I don't know what actual time it is because he's like 19 hours ahead of me here in Las Vegas. But Patrick McEnroe scheduled to be on the show tomorrow. Kurt Elan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com slated to be on the show tomorrow. Special thanks to Nick Ferguson. Yeoman's work by him, hanging out on the show today for the duration. That's why we love him so much. Check him out, Nick Ferg Show, over on YouTube. Yes, YouTube. Denver sports media personality. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us, even for the extra segment. You are the best. We will see you back here on Wednesday for an all-new edition of Sports Wrap. Don't forget the YouTube channel. As news breaks, we have Sports Wrap shorts there to have you covered as well. I'm Jason Page for Sam Yarnell. All of us here at Sports Wrap, thanks for being with us on this Tuesday. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. Hi there, I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as exciting. They're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.